Hello, welcome back. I hope you had a good first week of QVS classes, and I hope you are having a good weekend. And I wanted to take the opportunity today to talk about what you should have done in week one and where we are going to move forward into week two for American history. So in week one, you should have participated in the introductory forum. If you haven't done that already, please make sure that you do so soon. Also, if you haven't contacted me on Skype, or if you haven't set up a Zoom call in email, I would like to meet with you through a video call. So make sure that you set up a date soon so that we can meet on either Skype or Zoom. Just email me sometimes that you are available and we'll make something work. I want to talk about what you should have done in week one and where we are going to uh, go with week two in the American history course. So let's go to the course page. As you already know, Essential Unit 1 is covering the period from the American beginnings around the year 1491 all the way up until the time period of 1783. As I said last week, the pacing for this unit is 4 weeks. In fact, that tends to be the case for all of the essential units that we will do this year. They are all scheduled for 4 weeks. The pacing is here for you, and the resources are here as well. But I want to take you down to the section for unit activities. So, like I said, this covers the time period from around 1491 all the way up until 1783. And within the context of this time period, last week during week one, you should have participated in our little debate about Christopher Columbus, as you're probably already familiar with the fact that Columbus was the one who led the European discovery of the Americas. And there's quite a bit of controversial history surrounding what he did in the Americas as he colonized the region for Spain. So you should have watched the little video, read a couple documents, and then you should have come to some conclusion on whether or not Columbus is a hero or villain and participate in that forum. There are the documents for that. Then you would move on further. And I wanted you in this next activity to get a sense of what Europe, Africa, and the Americas was like before and after 1492. So prior to 1492, those three places without contact or connection between each other, whereas we'll look at them after 1492 and see the impact of the Columbian Exchange. And then moving further, you should have done that first activity called Natives around 1492 and First Contact. So in that, as I was saying, so in that activity, you watched a little video and then answered some questions about early Spanish colonization. Now, this week, you're going to move into week two. And in week two, our focus is going to be more specifically related to British colonization. During the period of 1607 to 1733, the British colonized the eastern seaboard of what is today the United States of America. Their first permanent settlement was in 1607 at Jamestown, and then their second settlement was in Plymouth, Massachusetts. So you'll learn about that in the first activity called Colonizing America. And then you're going to look at Jamestown and one of the settlements in Massachusetts a little bit more closely within the context of the next activity called Jamestown or Salem. I hope you enjoy this activity. You're going to learn a little bit about some of the troubles that the people faced in those two colonies early on. In fact, I'll just go ahead and open it up here to show you. You're going to take a look at some of the troubles that the people faced in those two colonies by participating in these like online adventures. The first one on Jamestown and the second one on Salem, Massachusetts. Then there's a few video clips that you can watch about each of them. And essentially, what you're going to have to do at the end is participate in a forum where you will have to explain, if given the choice, which of the two places would you choose, would you have chosen um, to settle and colonize. Now, it is a matter of fact that most people didn't have a choice, but in this case, I'm going to give you a choice and see what conclusions you would draw based on the history that you will be presented with in the two activities there. Then you're going to move further and open up this activity called the Natives and the English. In this activity, you'll take a look at the relationship between the native people and the English colonizers. So, in some cases, the relationships began very positive. And over time, as the English colonists began to settle in greater numbers and then encroach Native American land, those relationships began to intensify, and in many cases became sour. There were a lot of conflicts and wars between the native peoples and the early English settlers. So you're going to become familiar with some of those conflicts within the context of that activity. And then in the next two activities, you are going to take a look at the different regions of the British colonies. So essentially, the British colonies can be divided into three different regions. I was going to take you back up there to show you a map, but I'll open up the activities so that you can see a map here. Okay, there's a map that we can look at. So you're going to examine the different colonial regions that are, or shall I say, that were important back in the early 1700s. So this map is fairly good. You can see that there were what were referred to as the New England colonies in the very northern part of the eastern seaboard. They included like Rhode Island and Connecticut and Massachusetts and New Hampshire. Then we had what were referred to as the middle colonies, New Jersey and Delaware and Pennsylvania and New York. And then you had the southern colonies, which included Georgia, the Carolinas, Virginia, and Maryland. So in this activity, you are going to learn about the differences between them. And in learning about the differences, by the end of the activity, you'll draw some comparisons, like how were they similar and how were they different. Then going back to the main page, there'll be another forum in week 2. And in this forum, you're going to choose one of the British colonies. So you saw those 13 colonies. In this forum, you are going to choose one of them, and you are going to write a forum post from the perspective of one of those founders of one of the colonies. So if I go ahead and open this up here, essentially what happened in the British colonies over time was that the King of England took greater control and decided to consolidate his colonial holdings. A lot of the founders of the different colonies were upset by this because over time they had kind of like earned a large degree of sovereignty or independence. So when the king wanted to take more greater control over them, some of them rebelled. Eventually, the rebellions were so impactful that they led to revolution. But before we get to talking about the American Revolution, I want you to learn more about one of the colonies in particular. So they're listed here along with the founding fathers of those colonies. You're going to pick one, you're going to do some research, and then from that founder's perspective, you are going to make a plea to the king that would ask him to reconsider the charter or the removal of the charter, I should say, for that colony. And then you're going to post in the forum your person's perspective on that issue. And then finally, going back to the page, the last activity in week 2 is over the French and Indian War. So the French and Indian War was a very important conflict within the context of American history. Essentially, prior to this conflict, the French had controlled what is present-day Canada. And during this conflict that in world history is often called the 7 Years' War, during this conflict, the French and the Native Americans fought against the British and one Native American tribe in particular called the Iroquois. At the end of this war, the French were defeated, and as a result, they lost their colonial territories in Canada. And this led to a lot of future problems for the British Crown because what we'll examine in relation to the French and Indian War is how costly it was for the British and how the costliness of that war led to them putting in place taxes that the English colonists in America then began to protest against. So that's the last activity that you'll do this week on the French and Indian War. And like I said, if you haven't done week 1 activities, it's important that you finish those activities before moving into week 2. Okay. So I hope that this video was helpful. So you know what you should have done last week and where you need to go in this next week in order to be successful in the course. So another thing, make sure that you contact me at any time if you have any questions. I am very happy to help. That's what I'm here for, and I look forward to hearing from you soon. Okay, bye.